Hello everyone. I'm going to be beginning a new series on this channel called Living History. And let me tell you a little bit about it. I have a friend by the name of Amy South. Now she was the author of the Looking Back column in the Battle Creek Inquirer for about 20 years. She was quite a historian. And she lives at a retirement home now, and we have lunch about once or two times a month. And we chat about local history, and I meet with her and a bunch of other local history buffs. And Amy mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago, she said, you know what you ought to do is come and interview this friend of mine who has this great story about her father, who was the inventor of Rice Krispies and worked for the Kellogg's Company. And we finally did a video on it, and we kind of put this together as just a one-off video, and then we decided that it'd be better if we try to make this into a whole series on my channel. And so the living history idea kind of came into being. And so this first interview that you're about to hear is with Ella Joy McKay Bell. And her father was Gene McKay, the inventor of Rice Krispies. And she has some interesting stories about her life growing up in her father's household and their experiences with meeting W.K. Kellogg when she was a little girl and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of little great anecdotes about the local history of Battle Creek that she tells us as well. And some of her other father's companies that he worked for, which I think a lot of them that you will recognize, and a lot of the things that he was involved in the food industry is going to amaze you. So I hope you enjoy this series, and Amy is going to be helping me do the interview on this. So I'm just the cameraman on this video. I hope you enjoy it. Let's start.
Okay, you ready to go? Okay. All right. My name is Amy South. I wrote the Looking Back column for almost 20 years or history for 20 years in Battle Creek. And today we're interviewing Ella Joy McKay
Bell.
Mm-hmm. And she and her husband have done a lot of things in Battle Creek, but we're going to talk about her father, who was Eugene
H. McKay.
H. McKay.
Sr.
Senior, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked for W.K. Kellogg,
Mm-hmm.
and his primary thing was that he made a lot of cereal in your backyard, is that right?
Yes, he was an entrepreneur.
And he was the inventor of
Rice
Krispies. I really can't think of another cereal that's had more fame than
it did have a lot of fame, and one of the interesting things I read in this book, if you read it, they even had it advertised in China.
In China, right.
And they had the snap, crackle, and pop. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I've been proud of my dad, and I just have never, when I came back to North Point Woods to live here, I met you and lots of people, and I really wanted to try to promote Dad a little bit, because it never happened before he passed away. And that was one of my purposes. This is my final joint.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was...
well, certainly in Serializing America,
that's right. And
the book.
I have had a lot of different experiences. I did a program for the men here one morning, and that was sort of my introduction to doing this. And
I see.
I've always been proud of my dad. He was a kind and generous man. Uh-huh. And he worked hard, and he wasn't educated, and he was just a good person. He really was, and it was. We had a lot of good times, and I was his youngest child. He had two daughters previous, and they lost their mother, and soon after he married my mother, and then then Gene was born first, Gene McKay Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He's my brother, and I'm the sister, who was at home with her 4 children, taking care of them while everybody was doing other things. And I just wanted to promote him and get this on this, what Mr. Delaware is doing for us this afternoon. I appreciate a lot.
Well, let's go back to, he started in the Kellogg Company when he was about 17, isn't that
Well, it was
correct?
called, now I have that all here. He was
And-
started in a grain milling business in 1900 in Battle Creek. And then later on in 1901, he joined the Malta Vita Company in Toronto, Canada. And then he came back in 1908 to Kellogg's, that was called the Toasted Cornflake Company at that time. And he worked there until 1937, when he retired because he was offered the presidency of the Kellogg Company that year, and he refused it, and he had some more ideas that he wanted to do, I guess. And so then after that time, then he went into the Nabisco Company and had a plant downstairs on South Washington for a lot of years after that. And that was about the time I was born. I think the Rice Krispies were started about 1933. I was born in 1934, so
I
I
see.
missed all that. See?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But that was,
And-
he did it in your backyard.
Yeah, and then it was all done in the backyard on 188 Hubbard Street, and
And that's right across from Dudley
it-
School.
pardon?
Across from Dudley School.
Yeah, that's well, Dudley School
Wasn't there?
No, I guess
No.
it wasn't there.
No, it wasn't
probably,
there at
no.
all, I'm sure.
I started school at Ann J. Kellogg School,
Mhm.
and my brother did too. And then he went to junior high at WK, but then we moved to Gull Lake, and that was where I kind of lost out on some of the time there, with raising a family so it was just, we had a lot of good times. We were a good family, and he had 2 daughters by his first wife, Mary Louise and Margaret, and then Jean and I, and
You know, let's go back to when he was born. He was born in a log cabin,
Hope Township.
which is in,
Hope Township.
okay,
Uh-huh.
in Berry County.
Berry County.
Berry County, which is not very far away.
Yeah.
And
We've been out there to visit that
Have you?
place, and we took a rock and brought it back to our house. The cabin, of course, is gone,
uh-huh.
but it was, and they didn't live there too long, but they had a mother, she had her mother and father, their names were McDermott, and they lived across the road from them, and they helped them get through. There were 5 children, my Uncle George, Uncle Chancey, Aunt Atlas, Uncle Howard, and Jean. There were children, and it was tough living.
But he
And-
dropped out of school, what, in the
Yeah,
6th?
that's right. He
in the
dropped
sixth
out
grade?
of school. I think they all did.
To help
really.
support the family?
Yeah,
Like
help
a lot of
support
people
the
did, I
family.
guess. Yeah. And then he came to Battle Creek in 1900. You know, in 1900, there were like 100 different cereal factories.
That's right.
And there were a lot of them. Everybody was doing it in their backyards and all over the place in
Yeah,
1900.
that's
so.
right.
But he went to
He-
work with W.K.
He
Kellogg
came to
when he
the-
was, what, 17?
No, he was a little older. It was a struggle, and he worked there for quite a few years at the Kellogg Company. But Dad's interest was machines, and he had
Yeah.
all kinds of things. And this is an example of the patent
For the patent
for the
for it's
Rice
upside down,
Krispies.
but
Whoops, it's upside down. Rice
Yeah.
Krispies.
for Rice Krispies.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
There's a patent on Rice Krispies.
There is a patent.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
uh-huh.
interesting, isn't it?
And you might like to have a picture of that.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be quiet and let you ask me questions. It goes better that way, I think.
When he came to work for Mr. Kellogg at the cereal plant, he was pretty young, wasn't he? And then
yeah, so
didn't
I
he
think about
tell him he could go wherever
he could go wherever he wanted.
wherever he
to.
wanted
He
to just
got-
look around, right?
That's right. Uh-huh.
Look around, see what
And
they
I
were
think he
doing.
got paid $30 a week.
$30 a week.
And then when he kept working on the Rice Krispies and
Uh-huh.
whatever else he liked to do was in his work. Well, he worked evenings and nights
Uh-huh.
and spent a lot of time out there.
And he did most of it there in your backyard on Hubbard Street. And I
as
think,
far as the Rice Krispies,
well, he
mostly.
did Pep, and
Pep?
he invented Pep, and what were some other crumbles, or what did Mr. Kellogg offer him then? Before too long.
Well, it wasn't long before he got $50,000 a year.
That was really a lot
It
of
went
money.
really fast. And it's a good thing. He'd been left with two daughters that liked to do things and wanted to go to college and, things like that.
And then he had another
He's
family.
always a good provider.
Yeah, he had
And,
another family.
yep.
Yeah. But you don't remember the little building out back, or do you remember?
Yeah, well, barely. I
Uh-huh.
was there till third grade.
The third grade,
And
and then
the
you.
third grade,
okay,
I
yeah.
went to Aunt
Yeah.
Jada's school.
Uh-huh.
And then when I went to after the third grade, then I went out to Gull Lake to school, and that
Uh-huh.
put us out in the country. And,
Yeah, he built a home in Gull Lake, or
Well,
not yet.
Dad had a home at Gull Lake.
Uh-huh.
One of the daughters was married there. We spent all our summers there, every summer from the time I was born until I graduated from high school.
Uh-huh.
And then it was sold after that.
Yeah.
And Gull Lake was a great place to be able to grow up.
Uh-huh.
And right next to we were just south of the Kellogg Manor.
Uh-huh.
WK used to come down on
Yeah.
Sundays, and I don't remember that, but they claim that he put me on his lap and jiggled me.
oh,
Every Sunday he would come down, and Jim, as he would remember, is that he would he would come in the big chauffeured car, and his dog would be outside the window, and they'd be coming down. But our road at Gull Lake in those days was just a dirt road, and they brought the dog would move along the side of the car, and he'd sit
He
and
was
wait
getting
for
some
him.
extra
Well,
exercise?
He visited every Sunday. That was during the summer,
uh-huh, yeah.
pretty much. He did that, and
Yeah.
we had good times at Gull Lake. And my Uncle George lived just down the beach from us too, with a cousin George,
Uh-huh.
and had a lot of family, and a lot of Presbyterian church ministers came. We had a little cottage that people rented, and the people, a lot of ministers from the church had been there to stay. The Brabies, the Phelpses, the Tom Shannys, the Garners, and that was the end. That was
Uh-huh.
the last of it, I guess. And we had a lot of good times.
But did you ever hear him talking about inventing the cereal, or talking about?
No, it was sort of a secret.
Was it?
It
Oh,
was a little
really?
bit of a secret. I really
Uh-huh.
can't say that I ever really knew for sure until I was about 18, probably.
That he invented
That
Rice
he invented
Krispies?
Rice Krispies.
Even though by that
Yeah.
time it was a pretty popular
That's right.
kind of
That's
cereal, but you
right.
didn't really
And
know
now
that.
the Rice Krispie treats have kind
Rice
of
Krispie treats have
taken over, and
Yeah.
been a big hit too. So
Yeah. I don't know of another cereal that has had as much attention like the
Well,
Snap, Crackle, and Pop.
Snap, Crackle, and Pop.
That was
yeah.
quite a big thing, wasn't
That's
it?
right. Uh-huh.
And in fact, the book talks about how they made Mr. Crackle, Mr. Snap, and Mr. Pop.
Yeah, and they did it in China, named him something else. That was kind of cute.
Oh,
I
they
thought,
were in
too.
China and they named it
It was
something
the same name, but it was called something different
Uh-huh.
with the Chinese language.
Yeah.
But
How long did he stay with Mr. Kellogg and the Kellogg Company?
I
then?
think about 30 years.
30
maybe,
years.
Maybe.
Okay.
That might be a little too many.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't quite tell. It's really hard. There were a lot of secrets between them. They never really bragged about it, and
Uh-huh.
it was just later years came out. That's when I got the desire. Well, I'd like to get this out a little bit before
Yeah.
I'm not here anymore, because I'm the only one that's going to be able to remember all these
Uh-huh.
things. And I suppose that doesn't really matter
Yeah.
either.
When did your mother die then?
My mother died in 1957.
Okay, and your father died in?
My father died in 1957. My mother died in 1977.
Okay, so she lived a long time
She
after
lived a
him.
long
Yeah.
time after me.
Yeah.
She was a big
Yeah.
help to me. And she lived with me for a year after Dad passed away.
Uh-huh.
And then she had an apartment out in Lakeview, and she was happy there, and went to school and went to work and did some things and accomplished some things.
Yeah.
I was proud of her.
Yeah. And so he stayed there at the Kellogg Company, you think for
And
30,
then-
about 30 years?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
about 30 years.
And they asked him to be president of the company?
Yes, they asked him to be the president of the company.
Uh-huh.
And
And he what, refused? Or?
he refused because he didn't agree with the pensions, they said.
Oh,
A program or something.
see.
Maybe that was the excuse. I don't know.
Oh.
I can't tell you that. It had some disagreement about the pensions, I
Uh-huh.
think, but there could have been some other things too. I think that. My dad is in this book that has just recently come out within not too. I haven't had it very long, but
called
it's very interesting.
Serializing
about serializing
America.
America.
And it's all about the cereal.
He loved the cereal business. There's no doubt about that, and was successful in it, and had good, provided well for all of us, and.
Did you eat Rice Krispies at home?
Yes.
You did?
But we used to always listen to them, you know.
You always listen. Put the milk
They
on
aren't
and
as noisy as they used to be.
Oh.
I noticed that they've quieted down some.
Oh,
but,
really?
they're a little
Snap,
different.
crackle,
They're a
and
little
pop are not
different.
as loud.
But it was really, we had a lot of Rice Krispies, and we had Crumbles, and we had Pep, and what was the other?
Corn
Pops I don't remember quite so much.
I remember corn pops.
Do ya?
They weren't real popular.
And Dad was a great believer in bran, too.
In
He
bran.
really was.
Did he invent all
The 100% bran.
100%? Yeah.
And,
All bran.
And it was Nabisco then, I think. You know, after he
All
left
bran
the
is-
Kellogg Company, he opened this plant down on South Washington, and they that was going to be an experimental place. And after about a year, he sold the building or whatever it was, the business or whatever, to the National Biscuit Company. And that's when the brand got started being made.
What,
and,
all bran and?
All bran, and of course he did make Rice Krispies because that was the Kellogg Company. That
Yeah,
was always for
right,
Kellogg's. But and they had he just really he liked his work there, and that's when I was a young girl. And the Washington Bridge was right by his. Isn't that the Washington Bridge that goes across by the river there by
Right.
the old Kellogg plant? And
And he was, the building was right on the corner of where
it was
the,
a big brick building. And I had some friends come down one afternoon to go to the movie, and I left the car for him. I drove in, and left the car for him to come home in, and when he got out of work one night, the car was stolen.
oh my goodness.
We had no. It was a 1946 Buick, and that we looked for that Buick for 2 years, but we never
You
found
never
it.
found
Never
it?
got it.
Called
no.
the police and
Never got it back. So those things happened even in the
Yeah.
40s. And but he was. And he rode a motor scooter to work often during the war when the gas was short.
you mean from Hubbard Street to the,
No, from the farm.
from the farm?
Yeah,
All the
he
way,
drove,
okay.
yeah.
Which was halfway
West
out
Michigan, he said, was just full of holes.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
And he used to ride that little, what kind of motor scooters were they, Jim? Cushman motors. Scooters, I guess, and he had a nice motor scooter. He put that into the plant every morning, and he loved his work. I know he did. He spent a lot of nights there working.
And so he did some nice things for other people.
That's right.
And you were talking about the,
Well, during the Depression,
Yeah.
he fed what's the word I'm looking for? They
Hobos?
gave it for the restaurants. He gave
oh, the restaurants.
some sort of papers so that they could go eat.
They could go and
some,
get
I
it.
don't know the name of the restaurant down. He
I
fed
think he did take food to them, and then he
food
went to
them,
the
yes, and
restaurants and
I'm sure he hired a few of those people too.
Uh-huh.
And he was named the King of the Hobos. That's
King of
what it
Hobos.
was. They called him the King of the Hobos. And
because there were two railroads. that came
I'm
through.
so happy that all of these things have become known now. I didn't know it would ever happen. See, and so that's why I really wanted to do these programs, and I really enjoy doing it. So,
Yeah, you did a program here at North Point Woods. Didn't
yeah,
you?
I probably didn't do a very good one. It was
What
my
what
first
kind of
time.
things did you talk about?
Well, I talked about too at the Nabisco plant. Dad started the K rations.
Oh,
to feed
really?
the soldiers, and the K rations were what they do put into those cigarettes. And
Yeah, they gave
chocolate. And
They gave them to
whatever,
the soldiers that
and the
were
cans
out in the field.
That's right.
Yeah.
And most of the soldiers in our country past soldiers would remember the K rations.
That's
and
right.
He was a big he was a big promoter of those too.
Well, Kellogg cereal was. Mary
Kellogg
Barber,
cereal was.
do you remember?
Oh yeah, I knew Mary Barber.
Did you know Mary
Yeah,
Barber?
I remember
'Cause
her. She was a great friend of Dad.
She was a home economist
Yeah, that's
at
right.
the Kellogg Company.
Well, Dad
And she
was
was-
in at Kellogg's when
He
she
was at Kellogg
there
then, okay.
at that time.
And that was during the war. And
But
yeah.
then when he went to Nabisco, that's when the K rations got going too, and that was another way of, making money to do. So.
So he died in what year did he die?
57.
And where was he?
1957.
What did he do the later years of his life then?
That was, he worked at the Battle Creek Food Company. He and his brother started the Battle Creek Food Company, and he went into the Protos business, and making the sanitarium food. He and his brother, and then my brother joined him. He worked there too, as just a young, out of college, and he worked there for a while. And
Your brother worked at the Protos
at the Battle Creek Food Company.
Food Company.
And which is gone now.
Yeah. But you never got into working at those companies?
No, I never did. I was the baby of the family, remember? And
Yeah.
I was only 19 when I got married, so it was for a girl that didn't want to leave home. I did that quite easily.
Did you?
Love is blind.
I see, when you met Jim, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so it was, it was good times. They were always good. I had a great life, and I appreciate it a lot. And Dad would take me shopping at Jacobson's. He'd do anything I ever
did he?
asked. Oh,
Really?
yes, up and down the elevator. Go with me to buy a dress or anything. He'd do anything for me.
Would he really?
Yeah.
He had his little girl, huh?
Yeah. He said I brought him great joy. So
You great joy, and that's why he
that was
called you
why.
Joy. Ella
That's
Joy.
right.
Yeah.
So, he didn't have a lot of great joy at the beginning of his life because of losing a wife.
That's right.
Who had
Yeah.
two little girls.
2 girls.
And a big important part of our life too was the Albert King family. The girl's mother was the sister to Dr. Ben Hold'em, the eye, ear, nose, and throat doctor in the bank building, had an office. And the girl's mother had a brother and 2 sisters, and they lived right next door to us on Hubbard Street. And they were a big help to Dad.
Good.
And it was Virginia, one of the younger daughters, Virginia King, is the one that had done all the lovely notes that Dad had. She kept notes during the Rice Krispie time. And in the book it says a young woman did it.
And you knew who that
I
was?
would like to say it was Virginia King, and she married Jim McDonald, and he was in the service and overseas.
Was she like a secretary, or?
Well, she was just a young girl, and she could write very well, and she would go down and take notes. And I see that my brother had said that in the book, but he didn't know, he'd forgotten it
He
was
didn't know
Virginia,
who it was.
but I knew it was Virginia.
You knew it was Virginia.
That did the notes. Give her credit
And didn't
for
you
it.
say one time, was it one of your nephews or grandson that found those notes in the archives of the
Well,
Kellogg Company?
JB found that picture that you're talking about and gave it to me just not more than
And who is
2 months
JB?
ago, 6 weeks ago.
Who is JB?
JB would be my brother's son.
Your brother's son. Okay.
Yeah, a very nice young man, and we've had several meetings here. Moved to the farm. We built. Mother didn't like the house very well at the farm because it was a farmhouse. She grew up in a farmhouse, and she didn't like it very well. She wasn't happy with that. So he tore the house down, built a new one in 1941. It was built, and a nice colonial, beautiful house, and it was. And then we had what they called the tin shed in the back. There was, I guess that's what it was, a tin shed.
On Hubbard?
And no, this is on the farm.
Oh, I
And
see.
then
Okay.
We had ponies. I had a horse. Gene had heifers, or he worked in the 4-H.
Yeah.
He had a horse named Frankie that he rode at the Battle Creek Hunt Club that was terribly hard to manage, but he seemed to manage it. And I had a horse and took lessons, and we had everything. We really did.
Did your father ride?
No.
He never rode?
No, no, no.
He was too busy doing anything there,
but,
was he? Yeah.
But this tin shed held a lot of machinery,
Uh-huh.
and there were all these things in it, and I don't know what they were. In our day, the girls did one thing, the boys did another.
Oh.
They liked to go hunting, and they liked to go to the Boy Scouts to Canada, the boys did.
Uh-huh.
Mother and I would go to ballet class or go to something that we liked to do, or a movie or show or something. It was different.
And your father
Now-
took your brother camping.
Yes, my brother, he took him on a trip to get his Eagle Scout. He was an Eagle Scout, and they went up in Canada in some bush country.
Uh-huh.
And they survived it.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy,
Yeah.
but they survived it. I really want, if I never did anything with the rest of my life, I would like to be able to express those feelings and know what's, secrets that came out in the family. There were some secrets.
There were secrets
between
in the family.
brothers a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them
Between
was a little
the-
more competitive than the other or something.
Between
I
the
don't know.
two brothers.
I loved them both, so
Sure
I
you
can't
did.
really
Sure
say.
you did.
Can't wait for Christmas because they'd come to our house. And,
Did you? But you said there. But you knew there were secrets between your two.
Yes,
the two
I think so. More
Between your father and his
Our
brother.
father and his brother.
And his brother's the one that did cookies, right?
No, his
Oh,
brother
his
was the
brother.
bank. He built the bank. His
Oh, he
brother
built
did.
the
His
bank.
brother
Okay.
Built the bank, and
Okay.
he was ambitious and
Uh-huh.
did lots of things too. He lived on Ann Avenue, which
Uh-huh.
wasn't really very far around the corner from us.
Right.
On Hubbard
And there were a lot of
Street.
nice homes on Ann Avenue.
Oh yeah, there
Still
was
are,
in those
yeah.
days, And
Yeah.
our home on Hubbard Street really was very nice inside.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't quite as nice an area, but
Uh-huh.
we, as I said, this family lived next to us, this Hold'em family, and
Uh-huh.
and the King family, and they had 3 daughters, and they're all nurses, and I'm sure
Uh-huh.
they helped my dad a lot.
And those
And
homes
his
aren't there
reason
anymore.
when he had 2 little girls, and he wanted to go places to do business,
Uh-huh.
and they were a big help to him.
Uh-huh.
So, and they all took care of me, too, in the early years.
Uh-huh.
They did a lot for me, and I enjoyed we all liked Hubbard Street, and my mother especially liked it, but
Did she like
Dad
Hubbard
wanted
Street?
to go to the country, see?
Oh, uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
he bought this 80 acres farm, and he
Uh-huh.
wasn't a farm, it was just trees, and the lake had a lake on it, not a swimming lake, but a fishing lake.
Uh-huh.
And then we built a new home there in 1941, they did, and I was married in 54, so that was 14.
Wasn't
I
too long,
wasn't there
yeah.
very long, actually. And we had a garage there, and before they built the new house, there was a garage behind our house, and that burned up, and the firemen came and took all the furniture out of the house and left it in the front yard and left.
Oh.
But that's pretty typical, I guess.
Huh.
And we just had a lot of experiences, and we had a lot of friends. We had an apartment, we had visitors, and I went to school at the Kellogg Agricultural School on 40th Street. That's where, and Gene and I both went there. We both graduated from high school there, and then Gene went on to Michigan State, and I went to Western for a year, but then I was married.
Uh-huh.
And
And where did you live?
well, we lived when we first. Jim was in the service our first 2 years,
Uh-huh.
and we went to Austria, and we had a. When we went to Germany, we went to France.
Oh,
we
you went
to
with
England.
him?
Yeah, I went with
Wherever
him.
he was.
I
he went.
had to wait a while, and that's when I was home for about 3 months
Uh-huh.
with just Mother and Dad and
Uh-huh.
nobody else.
Oh.
And that's when they just told me everything.
Did they?
Just
Oh.
told me so much stuff,
Uh-huh.
and I probably wasn't as interested as I should have been
Uh-huh.
because I was so young and I was just
Yeah.
married.
Uh-huh.
I
But what
listened-
kind of things did they tell you about?
Well, they told me just what I've just been telling
Uh-huh.
you here, all the
Yeah.
things about where he worked and that he invented the Rice Krispies. I never knew
You
that.
never knew that before then? Uh-huh.
No, never knew it.
Uh-huh.
He didn't. He never.
And yet you ate Rice Krispies and you saw all the
Yeah,
advertisement and
yeah,
everything?
but,
But you didn't know your dad invented Rice Krispies.
no,
That's really interesting.
not for sure. I was suspicious,
You were
but I-
suspicious.
but I didn't know for sure.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't tell anybody that because I couldn't prove it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
then I got so I could prove. Then when I could prove it, then I was ready to go. You know,
Uh-huh.
and let's get this on.
Yeah.
You know, make sure that it's on. And I'm finding as I go through everything that the records are there, a lot of
Yeah.
them. But still, I had a 3 or 4 month time there when Jim went ahead of me to Austria, and I was home,
Uh-huh.
and I had a job at People's Savings and Loan. I
Uh-huh.
worked as a teller
Yeah.
for Wendell Gates.
Oh.
And it was that was a good experience for me. First job I ever had, and Dad would pick me up every night, and it was we had it was a good time. But my dad's health was failing a little
Was
bit.
it?
Yeah, it was
Uh-huh.
beginning to fail, and so I think that had something to do with the talking too.
Yeah.
But
How did he die?
yeah, he went to Ann Arbor to have cataract surgery, and he died at St. Joseph Mercy Hospital there
Uh-huh.
from a heart attack.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't do
Because of the or the
probably
cataract.
probably in some instance
Uh-huh.
it was a surgery, and
Yeah.
of course they didn't do it in Battle Creek or Kalamazoo.
No.
Then we had to go to Ann Arbor.
Yeah, and
he
you had to-
passed away right there at St.
He
Joseph
did. Uh-huh.
Hospital.
Yeah.
So it was I didn't think I could ever live without my dad.
Really.
But I
Uh-huh.
did.
Yeah.
But I did very
Uh-huh.
happily.
Yeah.
Because of Jim and my kids and
Yeah.
everything. So, but anyway, I appreciate the time you spent with me. I missed out on the times when it was really busy.
Uh-huh.
But we'd all go back to the National Biscuit. We'd go back at night as kids and get ice cream cones at Larmer's Drugstore in Urbandale.
Oh.
Yes, on the way, and that was what we did for the evening. Lots of
Oh, really?
times,
You went
yeah.
back to Battle Creek?
Yeah, we went back into the factory a lot.
You went back to the factory?
Uh-huh.
What
yeah.
did you do at the
This
factory?
was at the National Biscuit Factory.
Uh-huh. What did you do there?
And we'd sit in the car while Dad would go
Oh,
in. And then
you'd sit in
we'd
the
get
car.
ice cream afterwards.
Uh-huh.
Or either
So he felt like he needed to
Probably-
go back to work
yeah,
or do
oh yeah, I
something.
had to go check on things.
Check on things. Okay.
A lot.
Yeah. But you never...
Mary Ann Foster and Mary Ann was Margaret's daughter. She was with me a lot because we were almost like sisters, but we were. And,
She was your age, or...
she's 3 years older than I,
Uh-huh.
but she was my, I was her aunt. She was my niece. She was my sister Margaret's daughter. Margaret Foster's daughter.
Uh-huh. I see, yeah.
She spent a lot of time with us. And,
Uh-huh.
that was our treat. We either go to Sullivan's or we go to Larmer's.
Sullivan's, yeah. That was quite a place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ice cream, and we were always happy to do that.
Milkshakes? Did you ever get
Well,
milkshakes?
we usually chocolate sodas was our favorite.
Chocolate sodas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Chocolate sodas was our favorite. So, but they're lots of fun. I hope I've been worth your time. I think it's there's a lot of history there, a lot of history. If you can do something with it, I'd appreciate it.
I think you will.
That'd be good.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
retiring.
Thank you very much for that.
I'm retiring. I appreciate it a lot.
Today's video, it is the first in the series that I'm putting together called the Living History series. And many thanks to Ella for taking time to do the interview and telling the stories about her father. And special thanks to Amy South for helping me out and helping me make the connections. And Amy and I are going to partner together on future projects, and you'll probably see her in a few of the videos coming up. And we're going to do some stuff together about reaching out to some of these folks that are in retirement homes that have some amazing stories to tell. And this is all part of helping people to learn a little bit about history that you don't know about from the people that lived it, as well as maybe giving some people a chance to really appreciate the wealth of information and treasures that are sitting in our retirement homes within our community. So if you liked today's video, please take a minute to hit the like button down there and subscribe to the channel, because you're going to want to see the upcoming episodes in this series. And if you have time and you like to listen to more history stories while you're driving, check out my podcast, Tales of Southwest Michigan's Past. And until next time,